What would you do if the person you trusted most turned your home into a battleground just to win an argument? Emily stood in the kitchen, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and regret. The linoleum floor squished under her boots, water pooling around her ankles. Every cabinet, every photo frame, every trace of their life together was soaked, ruined by the flood her husband, Mark, had unleashed. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberately a twisted act to prove he was right. For years, Emily had ignored the cracks in their marriage, but last night, those cracks became a deluge. It started with a fight, the kind that had become routine. Mark's temper had always been a storm on the horizon, but Emily thought she could weather it. They'd been married 10 years, built a life with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily, in a modest suburban home. Mark was a mechanic, proud of his ability to fix anything except, it seemed, himself. Emily, a part-time librarian, poured her heart into keeping their family steady, but Mark's need to control every detail, from finances to how she folded laundry, had worn her down. Last night's argument was about the house's old plumbing. Emily had begged for months to hire a professional to fix the leaking pipes. Mark insisted he could handle it. "I don't need some overpriced plumber telling me what to do," he'd snapped. But this time, words weren't enough for him. To prove his point that he could fix the pipes himself and that Emily's worries were overblown, Mark had taken a wrench to the main water valve in the basement. "I'll show you it's fine," he growled, twisting it open. Water roared through the house, bursting pipes, flooding rooms, and turning their sanctuary into a swamp. Emily had screamed for him to stop, but he stood there, smug, as their possessions floated in the chaos. "See? I'm in control," he said, his voice cold. Lily, woken by the noise, clung to Emily's leg, sobbing. By morning, the house was uninhabitable. Mark left for work without a word, leaving Emily to face the wreckage. She stood in the living room, staring at a photo of their wedding day bobbing in the murky water. Her hands trembled not with fear, but with clarity. She'd spent years making excuses for Mark, believing love meant endurance. But this was betrayal. Not just of her, but of Lily. She couldn't let her daughter grow up thinking this was normal. Emily made a decision. She packed a single backpack with essentials clothes, Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit, a few $100s she'd saved from her paycheck. She called her sister, Claire, who lived 3 states away, and whispered, "I need a place to stay. Don't ask why yet." Then, with Lily's small hand in hers, Emily walked out the front door. The street was quiet, the neighborhood unaware of the storm that had torn her life apart. She didn't look back. The bus station was a blur of fluorescent lights and tired faces. Emily bought 2 tickets to Claire's town, her heart pounding as she glanced over her shoulder, half expecting Mark to appear. Lily, sensing her mother's tension, asked, "Are we going on an adventure, Mommy?" Emily forced a smile. "Yes, sweetheart. A big one." On the bus, as Lily dozed against her shoulder, Emily's mind raced. She wasn't just running away, she was running towards something. A life where she and Lily could breathe. But guilt gnawed at her. Was she being rash? Could she provide for Lily alone? The questions swirled until a stranger's voice broke her thoughts. "You look like you're carrying the world," said the woman across the aisle. She was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and a knitted scarf that looked handmade. Her name was Ruth, a retired schoolteacher traveling to visit her grandchildren. Emily, usually guarded, found herself spilling pieces of her story. Not the flood, not Mark's cruelty, just the weight of leaving. Ruth listened, nodding, her presence a quiet anchor. Sometimes, Ruth said, you have to break free to find out who you are. I left my own bad marriage years ago. Hardest thing I ever did, but it saved me. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. Write down what you want for your girl. Not what you're running from, but what you're running to. Emily took the notebook, her hands unsteady. She wrote, safety. Love. A home where Lily can be herself. The words felt like a vow. Ruth's unexpected kindness shifted something in Emily. She wasn't just a victim fleeing a flood, she was a mother building a future. When they arrived at Claire's, the relief was immediate. Claire, fierce and protective, didn't pry. She set up a bed for Lily and handed Emily a mug of tea. You're here now, she said. That's what matters. But Emily knew this was only the beginning. She couldn't hide forever. Mark would come looking, and she needed a plan. The next day, Emily did something she hadn't planned. Instead of collapsing into despair, she walked into the local library. She'd always found solace among books, their pages a refuge from chaos. The head librarian, noticing her familiarity with the shelves, struck up a conversation. When Emily mentioned her experience as a librarian, the woman's eyes lit up. We're short-staffed, she said. If you're looking, there's a part-time opening. Emily hesitated. A job meant staying, meant roots. But it also meant independence. She applied on the spot, her heart racing with a mix of fear and hope. By the end of the week, she had the job. It wasn't much, but it was her step toward rebuilding. Days turned into weeks. Emily enrolled Lily in a new school, where she blossomed, her laughter filling their small apartment. Emily's paychecks covered rent, and Claire helped with childcare. But the shadow of Mark lingered. He called, left voicemails angry at first, then pleading. Emily didn't answer. She wasn't ready to face him, not yet. Then came the twist she hadn't expected. One afternoon, a letter arrived, forwarded from their old address. It wasn't from Mark, it was from Ruth, the woman from the bus. Inside was a check for $2,000 and a note, I sold a quilt I'd been working on. Thought you and Lily could use this to start fresh. Keep writing your future. Emily's eyes stung. A stranger's generosity, born from a fleeting connection, gave her more than money, it gave her faith in goodness. With the money, Emily enrolled in an online course to become a library technician, a step toward a better-paying job. She also hired a lawyer to start divorce proceedings, ensuring Mark couldn't take Lily. The process was daunting, but each step made her stronger. Months later, Emily stood in her new apartment, watching Lily draw pictures of their adventure. The flood that had destroyed their old life had also washed away her fear. She hadn't just vanished, she'd transformed. She'd built a home, not of walls and pipes, but of courage and love. Mark eventually found them, showing up at Claire's with apologies and promises. But Emily wasn't the same woman he'd tried to drown in his need for control. We're done, she told him, her voice steady. This is our life now. He left, and for the first time, Emily felt free. What Emily did wasn't just vanish, it was a rebirth. She didn't need to prove a point to Mark or anyone else. She proved it to herself, that she could rise from ruin, that she could give Lily a life filled with hope. And in that quiet victory, she found something stronger than any flood, her own unbreakable spirit.